After we've identified some of the most important people that we're attempting to track, or a type of individual or a type of issue that we're trying to find information about, we want to run what's called a link analysis. Now, a link analysis allows us to take a certain number of individuals and take their, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and other accounts and analyze who those people are in touch with. Now, following up on an earlier demonstration that we had, I'm going to show you a couple of small link analysis demonstrations here to give you an idea of how it works. And right now we're just going to go to the screen here, and I put together a couple of link analysis examples. The one I want to show you right now is a very simple one. It's a link analysis of one individual. He happens to be a county legislator in a very, very small district on Long Island, New York. We're just following this guy because he's relatively new into office and want to know who his supporters are. And this is one way to find out. So basically what I did is I found out his information. I got his @ sign handle, which he uses in Facebook and Twitter and some other accounts, and I ran it into our system. And what it did is it analyzed who he's in touch with, who his followers are, things like that. And I'm going to show you right now. I mean, here's the name of the individual basically in the center of the screen here. And then I'm going to run an actual analysis of who he is in touch with, and you'll see it pop up on the screen. I'm going to push the analysis button right now. Over here on the side of the screen here, you'll actually see the analysis start to perform. And basically what you're looking at here is the program starting with the center dot, which is the actual initial person that we're tracking. And you're going to see a couple of sets of counter dots or connections that this individual is involved with. Now, if you look at the screen the way it is right now, you'll see the red dot obviously is the center, the initial dot. The green dots are people who are in communication, that is two-way communication. So this is an individual who has contacted these people, and these people have contacted him. The blue dots are basically communications that are going one way. These could be interpreted mostly as people who are following the individual, but that the individual is not necessarily in touch with. So if you take a look at this picture, I'll zoom out a little bit and get a bigger look at it. I mean, this is what these things look like. You'll see that for the purposes of usually in the communication that we're doing, we're going to concentrate on the people who are in two-way communication, in this case the green dots. If you look at the center part of the screen here, I'm just going to move this out of the way so we don't need it. Basically what you're going to see are the people who are two-way. That's what the 2 indicates right here. And you'll see we have a nice long list of who these people are. What we could do at this point is then we can capture those individuals, the individuals here that are on this list here, and put them into our database for communication if we're so inclined. I'm going to show you a couple of different views of this. Again, this is very small. There's only about 800 contacts in this particular analysis. So we're going to go to another one. And one of the things I decided to do is I went out and we did an analysis of Democrats who are active in Los Angeles. Now, we did this by finding a central location, which is LA Democrats, which happens to be a hashtag type of a indication, and we're going to run an analysis of that. As you'll see in this particular analysis, we found more than 2,600. Let's take a look at what that analysis looks like. It take a little longer to pop up on the screen because of the raw numbers involved. Obviously, each of these things are going out, and we're contacting each of these things, confirming what they are, capturing the data, and then having it come into the system. So this is going to take a couple of seconds. You'll see now that these connections are starting to form. And again, there's a lot of them here, so there's a lot going on data-wise to do this analysis. So it'll take a while for the screen to finally um, level out. But as you'll also see, we're talking about a whole number of people. About 29,000, I think, was our estimate. And we're going to start to see who's where, who's important, who's in communication back and forth. And of course, we're able to capture the data for all of these people. So I'll wait a couple of seconds as we start to see this thing come into form. And again, if you think about what's going on here, this is analyzing 29,000 different communication points, and then analyzing who's in communication with who and to what degree. So as that forms, we're going to be able to get a good picture of who the quote inner circle is of any particular organization or operation. This can be done for a company, this can be done for a government entity, it can be done for an individual, it can be done for an elected official. It doesn't really matter. I mean, basically, we can do a link analysis on almost anybody. The example that a lot of people use is that if we have, we did an example in a schoolhouse where we had 40 kids in a class. We had the links for 4 of those students, the parents of the students. And by running a link analysis of those 4, we were able to find out who was in touch with others who were in the class. And of the 40, we were able to identify 37 of the people, even though we didn't have their initial information. But just by analyzing who they were in touch with and the linking back and forth between them, we were able to make that analysis. Now I'm going to try and zoom out a little bit on this screen, as again, it's a little, considering the raw number of data, very interesting that you're even able to get it this quickly. Usually these things take hours to render. Now, one of the couple of other options I just want to point out here is up on the top screen over here is the download option. And basically what we're talking about with download, you'll see there's a couple of options. I can download this image of the chart, which doesn't really have much use. Most of the images come out looking the same. But we can export the chart data. And basically what I mean by that is we're able to export who these people are, where they are, what their Twitter handles are, what their hashtags are, what their @ are, and we're able to capture this in a database. Basically, we click the button. It's going to ask us for a location for the data, which will locate on your screen someplace. And I'm actually not going to do that because it takes too long. But basically what we do is we end up with a data stream, and basically the people that are in the center of the screen right here that are identified all are entered into the database. And we also find out, we get some cross information about who's talking to who at the same time. All that stuff is then captured. And again, this is still trying to form. And you'll be able to see that we get a pretty good feel for who's in touch with the Democratic Party in Los Angeles. Those would be all of the green dots. These are people whose communications go both ways. So this is you can make certain assumptions about who those people are. Either they're avid followers, or they're volunteers, or they're part of the actual organization itself, which we can zero in on at a later date. Now what I'm going to do is, rather than belabor this for one thing, I just want to give you one more little look of a different data stream. And we're going to go down and I'm going to do one that's somewhat interesting. I'm going to try and minimize this as best we can. I'm going to get down to one more demo. Now this demo is a little more complicated, a little more interesting. Earlier we had dropped a geodome over the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, July of 2016. What we did is we analyzed the top 5 people who were communicating on that day. That's these people who are listed right here. What we did at that point is we ran an analysis of who these people were in touch with. And it turns out, by doing the full length of an analysis, that is, carrying all this analysis out to the end, which takes weeks, by the way, these people are in touch with an additional, and if you look at this number up here, it's over 59 million. Now, apparently, these 59 million people are the internal followers, and basically you're probably talking about the core of Democrats in the entire country. Obviously, I'm not going to print that out because it'll take hours and hours and hours for that to show up on the screen. So obviously I'm not going to do that. Now we have some of these other types of things that we did. There's a couple of other interesting ones that we've done for some industries. For instance, this is one that we did, and these are people. It's a company that does cigars. We were able to do some analysis. We found out 48,000 people who were, very much interested in that particular issue. We also did some following here for the Republican National Committee. Uh, Very interesting stuff. I'm just going to show you one more complicated link analysis. This is one that's a little different. What we're doing here is we were just basically doing a test of the University of North Carolina and just some of the people who, were communicating on the websites and things like that. It really was more of a test operation. But we wanted to analyze a number of these people here, and we saw about a dozen of these people that seemed to be fairly well connected. And we're going to run an analysis of what this type of analysis looks like. Now you see it's a little more different because it's not centered by one dot. Each of the red dots are the people that we added into the mix, and what it's doing is it's studying the interreactivity between the dots, both the red as the initial dots, and also who those people are in touch and in contact with. You'll see it's quite interesting that you can see among the people that we're talking to who actually has the most, I guess, communication within this particular group. You'll see in this particular case over on this screen over here, you'll see these are the amount of links that each of these people have. And you can almost make an indication that perhaps these people are would be more involved, or at least are in a position to wield greater influence. Now we do this, for a lot of reasons. But if you look down here, you'll see who these two important dots are, and you'll be able to identify them, pretty much by name. So you see who's in touch with multiple people. Now you can also touch each one of these dots to see where they go. You'll see the blue dots on the outside. I don't know if you can actually see it on the printout, but you'll see that basically they're connected one way. And basically those are people who are only in communication one way. Whereas you get some of these others, obviously the red dot there going to a lot of different places. Same with this one. Now, if we carry down to some of the others, you'll see there's fewer and fewer. But you can also see, almost by touching each of these dots, who is involved with who and how the communication works. Now we can export this information, obviously. Over on the left side here, this is the type of information that would be exported. We would export this information again using the download option over here, where we can actually download a copy of this map, or we can also download a copy of the thing in Excel format and do it that way. But again, this is a more complicated type of a search. We use this when we're trying to find out where certain power brokers are within certain hierarchies. It could be business, it could be politics. It really doesn't really matter. We could just find out where the power brokers are for almost any type of an operation. Anyway, that's a rough overview of some link analysis.